Hey, welcome to Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. We got a big day planned for you today. We're going to talk about presidential pardons, what can happen there. We're going to get a chance to visit with the fact that, things in Canada aren't going so well when it comes to COVID. And then there's some idiots from NDSU that did some things on Snapchat where they've got themselves in the woodshed. And we'll be talking about that as well. But we're going to begin with Rob LaRue. That's a name I hope you all remember because you're going to remember it. He's president of the National Farmers Union. Rob, good to have you on Down the Road.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Now, you are president of what is the country's largest farm organization. Are you starting to wonder why you took the job yet?
No doubt that I'm glad to be where I'm at, but it has been a really unusual year, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. For what ag has been going through with a COVID year and then the years before that talking about tariffs and everything, it's been a challenge. What changes in a year like this with COVID, you're not sitting there on an end gate talking to your seed salesman like you normally are. I mean, what's been the biggest challenge?
Well, I think probably the biggest challenge and opportunity this year has been that a lot of the things that family farmers have been fighting for and have been talking about, things like the concentration in the marketplace, consolidated power in just a few hands, which really puts family farmers at a huge disadvantage. That has been on full display this year. And, for the first time in a generation, I think consumers are also really seeing what impact this means for them in the grocery stores. And I see that, if you will, as maybe a silver lining.
Well, I can see that. I mean, we're all eating at home. We're all buying more groceries. I think when this whole thing gets over, I'm not even going to argue with my wife about going out for dinner. I can about imagine that. But the products that your men and women make have always been there. People have always eaten. But now it's in their pantries. It's on their shelves. I mean, what a great way to get their attention, Rob.
Absolutely. I think there's, while there's been a disconnect at times over the years of where does food actually come from, it's much more visible. You also have, unfortunately, lines of folks who are in need of food, right? So trying to make sure that, farmers continue to meet those needs. But, as we saw in the cattle market and also in the hog market and so forth, a really super concentrated industry, just a few packers out there, has really shown consumers what effect that has on driving up prices for them and lowering prices for farmers and ranchers out there. And I think that's one of the key messages here that we're going to be able to take into a new administration to hopefully make some fundamental changes.
Well, let me give you an example here from the Upper Plains, and I realize you understand it really well. You worked with Colin Peterson from the 7th District in Minnesota for years, which kind of makes you a homeboy. It makes you one of ours. But my guys, they'll haul a steer to the butcher plant. They'll grab some hogs and go to the butcher plant. They can't do that as easy now. They can't. I mean, the butcher plants are all backed up, and it's a little bit of both. It's the fact that, hey, we don't have time because there's so much coming in and they can't get the help and everything that goes with that. But you talk about the big packers, the smaller people that I count on. I mean, Rob, things have changed because of the COVID world there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So it's a couple different things, right? It's, as you just pointed out, you have so little ability to get even smaller processing done. I know that there are places that are now booking dates, not in 2021, but actually 2022, just because they're filling up. That's good news in some ways, but what it really shows is that we need more capacity out there, right? We need more small and medium-sized processors along the way. And unfortunately, right now, we have this system where just a few packers are really controlling that marketplace. They control all of that product. And what that's effectively doing is taking money out of the pockets of farmers and consumers and shipping it off to places like Brazil.
I first got elected to the North Dakota legislature when I was 32 years old. I'm 59 now. It's a lot of years ago. And how big the packers were and how they controlled, the cattle market then was a major issue. And it still is now. I mean, why can't we get our arms around this?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that part of the focus here is the fact that, in the past it's been all about the consumer's prices and so forth. Well, that's an argument now that can be thrown out because it's not just about, our concerns from the farmer's point of view, but also consumers. And I'm really hoping that that linkage there will affect some real change out there, hopefully.
We were talking about Colin Peterson earlier, and Colin, the Democrats didn't like him and the Republicans didn't like him at times. That's a good sign. That means to me he's a pretty good congressman. But when you lose someone like that from farm country that understands the Farm Bill, that's a major loss. And so future leaders, when it comes to ag, that really understand what National Farmers Union and your state and local farmers unions are advocates for, how do you bring them up to speed? Because you can't just walk down the hall of the Rayburn building or the Hart building and say, hey, let's visit for a while. They're not there. I mean, you're not able to in a COVID world. So how do you go about getting that new group ready to be on board with the farm program?
Yeah, well, first of all, Farmers Union members are fired up, whether they're in North Dakota, Minnesota, or across the country. And we couldn't have our regular fly-in this year that normally happens in September. We get a big turnout for that. Well, we have one of the biggest turnouts ever this year in what was a virtual fly-in. And that just shows that, our members are engaged, they are fired up, and they really want to try to communicate. And in some cases, we heard feedback that those meetings that we set up virtually were as productive at times as they would be in person. So we've had to find ways to adapt, to come up with new ideas and approaches to getting our message across. But our members are right there behind us, pushing us to do that. And so we're happy to do it. I'd also say that Colin's legacy is actually helping here in this. You brought up Colin, and it's a huge loss to American agriculture. But his leadership style in the committee really made sure that all the Democrats in particular on the Ag Committee understood all the policy. He really made sure that they were all students of it, whether they wanted to learn about dairy policy or what crop insurance is, they had any use for it in their districts. He really pushed them, at times against their own will maybe, but I think that's going to set us up, at least in the Ag Committee, in a better place because they understand the issues certainly there in the Valley and in northwestern Minnesota, but I think they understand a lot of farm programs in ways that they wouldn't understand under a different chairman.
How bad did President Trump's tariffs hurt American agriculture?
There's no doubt that we have lost many, many farmers out there because of the losses that they encountered with just the devastating tariffs that were put on place. You add to that trade war damages, and I would just note that although we are starting to see stronger prices now, it's going to take a long time for us to dig out of the hole that was put there and eating into equity and so forth. But in addition to that, you had these promises on things like ethanol and biofuels that never really, were fulfilled. And quite frankly, that's like, I think somebody's estimate was 1 billion bushels of corn that otherwise would have found a market out there. Can you imagine what the markets and the prices would look like if those promises had actually been fulfilled?
It left me shaking my head. And of course, I've always been known as an infrastructure guy. I mean, that's why I ran for office. I used to manage a rural water system, so I understand how important infrastructure is. When you look at how other countries responded to those tariffs, and I'm not talking about buyers, I'm talking about potential sellers. You go down to Brazil and you look at the infrastructure that China put in, that scares me, Rob. That scares the heck out of me because you don't build that much infrastructure unless you intend on using it. I mean, to me, when you sit there and you look at a potential seller, when you look at what South America is doing, and you talk to your folks, whether it was by Zoom on your fly-in this time, how concerned are they with that?
Well, I think there's a lot of concern out there, and that's why there's a lot of focus right now on who is Biden going to be putting in his cabinet. If we talk about trade, what is that going to look like? We've heard a little bit of news today that he may keep some of those tariffs on China for a while, but the first thing he's going to do is reach out to our allies, something that this past administration simply didn't do. They had a go-it-alone approach. where they went in there. And as you just pointed out, when you not only go it alone, but poke and irritate all of your allies in the process of doing that, this long strategy of recovering those markets, of getting stronger markets, is really put at a big disadvantage. So all great points that you make.
So I've got a minute and a half left. I'm going to put President-elect Joe Biden in your office, where you're sitting right now. And I'm going to say, Rob, tell him anything you want. He's going to look at you and say, where does my administration need to go when it comes to agriculture? What's your answer to that?
Yeah. So agriculture needs just a couple of focuses. We need focuses on markets that are truly working and respond. Right now, we have markets that are being held captive by a level of concentration that is simply not allowing farmers to have a fair advantage here. So I think first and foremost, having free and fair market is going to be fundamental for the survival of family farmers and rural communities, quite frankly.
You know, I got to tell you, it's scary, but it always seems to find a way to work out, and a big part of that is Farmers Union, because you're not afraid to go out there and advocate. And when this COVID thing is over, I know that the next fly-in won't be by distance. It'll be with boots on the ground. So, Rob, thank you. Thanks for coming on.
We'll keep fighting. Thanks, Joel.
You bet. Keep doing just that. When we come back, Dr. Larry Jacobs is going to join us. We're going to get a chance to talk about what, let's be honest, President Trump is still president of the United States. What can he do yet? What, in my words, what damage can he do yet? Certainly what actions can he take? Obviously, pardons is something that are being talked about a lot. So let's head to the University of Minnesota right after this.
Howdy, folks. It's the County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon-rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Beck Communications is honored to be recently recognized with 3 Broadband Now awards. Beck Communications Cooperative was awarded in the categories of Top Internet Speeds Nationwide, Top 3 Fastest Internet Providers in North Dakota, and North Dakota's #1 Fastest Fiber Provider. It's only through the support of our members and customers that Beck Fiber delivers award-winning speeds and service. Thank you, Beck Communications Cooperative members and customers, for your years of continued support.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at AccordSleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
Is your business phone system outdated and expensive to maintain? Most large VoIP companies leave you on hold or struggling through online support and training for your employees. With Beck Connect, you always have fast, friendly, local support. Familiar faces with the know-how to keep you connected. Take advantage of the newest technology in voice calling, video conferencing, and virtual meeting rooms. Beck Connect gives you all the features you need with no upfront investment and no obsolete hardware or software ever again. Simplify your communications. Choose local. Choose Beck Connect.
Welcome back to Down the Road. This is a special treat for me. Dr. Larry Jacobs joins us now from the University of Minnesota. He's a professor there, and I wanted to talk to him about lame duck presidents. What can happen, what can't happen. Obviously, between now and January 20th, Donald Trump is president of the United States. He's a different personality. He's not a personality that says, come on over to the White House and I'll show you where to hang your coat. He's a personality where you got to ask him whether or not he's even going to the inaugural. So, Dr. Jacobs, welcome to Down the Road. Good to have you back on, sir.
Good to be with you. Thank you for the invitation.
You know, the powers of the lame duck president. Describe to everyone so they understand what exactly can go on between now and January 20th.
The powers of the lame duck president are the same awesome powers of a president. They are the president until January 20th, when the next fellow or gal are sworn in. So it's a tremendous set of opportunities, or if you look at it the other way, a set of threats. We're already seeing Donald Trump in a number of areas moving very aggressively, and I would say in an unprecedented way compared to at least modern presidents that we've witnessed.
So give people an example of what you're thinking, what he's done and what he possibly can do.
Well, here's two examples, two different areas. If you go back to the financial crisis in 2008, George W. Bush had served 2 terms. The incoming president was Barack Obama. And President Bush was absolutely, nonpartisan, nationally oriented. How can I help our country? In setting up the Obama administration with resources and information about how to handle this financial crisis. There was no partisanship, and to this day, you'll see a very close relationship between Barack Obama and George W. Bush. They have respect for each other. Now look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump is basically burning the seed corn as he's going out the door. And, just to give you one example, there was money that was set aside by Congress to handle the financial crisis, to handle the decline of our businesses, including small and medium-sized businesses, which of course do a lot of the hiring, most of our hiring. And Donald Trump just, said, no, we're not going to let that money stay here for Joe Biden. We're going to send it back to Congress. And, obviously there's just this kind of sense of, I'm not going to let the next guy do better. And that we haven't seen that before. Another example, President Bush fires a number of senior civilian leaders at the Defense Department, brings in a new group. This is, again, 60 days left. We're coming down the home stretch. All of a sudden, a dramatic push to pull our troops back from abroad back to the U.S. That is a good debate to have. But we just don't see presidents at the end of their term when there's another guy or gal coming in ever doing that. It's crazy. And the folks in the military are really flabbergasted because there's a lot of thinking that goes into our force structure and its positioning, and Donald Trump is just driving a tractor right through it all.
So let's talk about the military before we talk about pardons, because the type of power a president has to do that, you would think that Congress would try to pull that back because, on both sides of the aisle, you got the Democrats who aren't Trump lovers, and you've got the Republicans who are bigger hawks when it comes to all of this. So can't there be a coalition that says, look, you can't do this. We're not gonna pull everybody out of Afghanistan. We're not gonna pull everybody out of Iraq. I mean, is there complete power for the president to make those huge moves?
Well, there's two things going on. You put your finger on both of them. One is, over the last half century, the power of the president has become virtually unlimited in the area of national security. There's virtually nothing that they can't do, including using a drone to kill an American citizen, which is what Barack Obama did. Now, to be full and honest about this, that American citizen was a terrorist who meant harm. But there were a lot of folks who were like, oh yeah, we're going to use drones to kill American citizens? How does that happen? And there are many, many other examples of that. So the president has become this super imperial figure that gets their way almost every time. The other part is, and you put your finger on this, Congress has disappeared. If you look at the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, if we were playing Monopoly, you would say the game's over, because Congress has got really vast powers over every one of our branches in the military. And it's very, very specific. There's no doubt about it. But Congress has not been willing to step up to challenge the president for several reasons. One is political cowardice. They don't want to challenge a president and then have something go bad and be blamed for it. Secondly, party. Republicans disagree with Donald Trump. They're furious about it, but watch what they do. And you're not going to see much, because partisanship is trumping what used to be institutional partisanship. The loyalty to Congress as an institution, 3-4 decades ago, that was the mindset. Look at a guy like Barry Goldwater, who was the conservative icon, ran for president in 1964. Ronald Reagan and lots of people credit Goldwater for really creating the modern conservative movement in American politics. Goldwater was part of a group that really went after the CIA and the FBI for violating laws in the Constitution. It's known as the Church Committee. You can look it up. And what was striking the president at the time? Gerald Ford, Republican. We used to have that, and it was both sides. I'm not just saying it was Barry Goldwater. You also had Walter Mondale and others who were on this page about accountability and the power of Congress.
Yeah, you nailed it. You're spot on. I've only got less than a minute left, but have you ever heard of somebody pardoning someone before they've ever been charged with a crime? Because that's what Donald Trump is talking about doing with his children.
I don't think it's possible. I mean, he could do it, but I don't think a court would recognize it. There's a vast amount of legal procedure. You've got to have a case, a controversy. There's got to be a legal question and charges and so forth. I think this is just, Donald Trump being Donald Trump. It probably will have no effect.
Dr. Jacobs, we really enjoy these conversations. I know how busy you are, and I know how many people pull at you. So thanks for sharing some time with us.
It's great to be with you. Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to get a chance to go up to north of the border. We're going to find out how COVID is going in Manitoba. Right after this on Down the Road.
I just went in for a regular mammogram, and I found out that I had a little tumor.
Through the exam and the biopsy, it was determined that I had cancer.
I got a call from one of my doctors that I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
After 5 years, they found a local reoccurrence.
The first thing you hear when you're told you have a cancer, it's a little daunting because you don't know where to go with it.
Since 1999, in a partnership between CHI St. Alexius Health and Sanford Health Bismarck, the Bismarck Cancer Center has provided the most advanced radiation therapies and holistic support services for cancer patients and their loved ones for 20 years.
I've been at the Bismarck Cancer Center since it started. I actually was in the basement of Med Center 1 before, when we had old machines and old equipment. And thankfully, the two hospitals at the time, St. Alexius and Med Center 1, joined forces to create the Bismarck Cancer Center.
I walk in the door, I get nothing but hugs, and I was marveled at them. I mean, I thought it was the best place in the world.
The staff is unbelievably compassionate, and they explain everything to you.
Everybody's genuinely concerned about your well-being, and the level of care is just top-notch. The Cancer Center just does such an amazing job of helping people.
To me and my family, the Cancer Center means life. It's given me the ability to live out my life with my family, my wife, my children, my grandchildren.
Because of them, I'm 2 years out, get to move on with my life, make a difference now for other people.
I would recommend this center because the minute you walk through that door, they've got your back.
This center means so much to me and to the people that are in this building, and we just want to keep giving it back to the community and providing for them what they need.
I'm Katie. I've been cancer-free for 2 years.
I'm Steve, and I've been cancer-free for 4 years.
I've been cancer-free for 10 years.
10 years.
11 years.
15 years.
My name is Lainey, and I've been cancer-free for 18 years.
Bismarck Cancer Center, your partner against cancer for 20 years.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Good to have you back going down the road with us. I've been looking forward to this. Richard Cloutier is, he's north of the border, and he's a man that chose the right profession. He is a radio talk show host at CJOB in Winnipeg. Richard, good to have you going along with us.
Great to be with you. Thanks so very much.
One of the reasons that we called and hoped that you would join us is because of what's going on in Manitoba. Here on the southern part of your and my world, we've been critical of North Dakota, of South Dakota in our response to COVID, and we've used Manitoba as an example of being proactive and getting things done, collectively doing a better job. How is it going right now? How is COVID going in Manitoba?
Well, we've been, I think, a good role model up until about a month, 6 weeks ago. Our case count now, we had our highest death count yesterday at 16. November was our worst month. We were down to 1 case in July, and I think a lot of people took it for granted, the fact that we were pretty well COVID-free. And then with the second wave upon us, we probably shut things down about 2 weeks late. And now we have a record number of hospitalizations. We lead the country in the number of people per 100,000 who have tested positive for COVID. Our ICUs, our hospitals are jammed. And unfortunately, we've lost a lot of seniors in our personal care homes. And we've also lost a young one under the age of 10. So if we were having this conversation about a month ago, I would say we're pretty good. But we're having this conversation early in December now, and we are not a shining example in Canada of how to handle this.
So how are people acting before this fall rise, and how are they acting now? Give me an example of how people were treating COVID, before these numbers started climbing, and I'm really curious if they've changed what they've done, after they see the numbers rise.
They were going openly to the shopping malls, hanging out in restaurants and in bars. There were still some restrictions, but really you could hang out and it was life pretty much as normal. And then with the cooler weather, the numbers started to climb, and then you get the community transmission. And now we have seen lockdowns. Businesses are closed. It's essential items only. Your local Walmart now can open for groceries, but you can't buy any goods that are not considered to be essential items. People are talking about wanting to do their Christmas shopping. That's not going to happen. Our latest lockdowns will go for another week or so. There's talk that that's going to go on right through the Christmas season. So Joel, it's night and day. Beforehand, we were looking at North Dakota and going, and pointing our finger and saying, well, that's how not to do it. And in fact, at CJOB, we were doing the comparisons, and we were looking good for several months until about 6 weeks ago. And now we can't point that finger. That finger has to point squarely at us.
So how have people reacted to the new restrictions? Because North Dakota finally went with a mask mandate. It wasn't that long ago. And you want to talk about pushback, in particular, western part of North Dakota. the word liberty has been used. I've tried to make the argument on my show here that, you're told you have to drive on the right side of the road. You're told you have to wear a seatbelt, that if I'm sitting next to you in a restaurant indoors, you can't smoke. I mean, there's all types of examples of where people would look at it and say, I've lost my liberty. But you go to Western North Dakota, you're still going to have a hard time finding people that don't complain about wearing a mask. And so I'm curious, has the attitude changed? Now that it got serious again, are they embracing leadership that says you have to do this?
Absolutely. To the point now where we shame each other. Where's your mask? And I think that's one of the fundamental differences between Canadians and Americans on this, is that we believe in peace, order, and good government. And while we've had a few instances where the authority of the health orders in place has been challenged at some local churches and churches in southern Manitoba, for the most part, people wanted these lockdowns a whole lot earlier. For the most part, people want to endure that short-term pain for long-term gain. And if somebody is not wearing a mask indoors as required, the fingers get pointed, gently. We're nice here in Canada, right? And they'll say, hey, you forgot your mask, or do you need help getting a mask? So the protests have existed. They're few and far between. They probably get a lot more media attention than they deserve. But the fact is that when you get 50 or 60 people, and there was one instance in southern Manitoba in one of our what we would call highly religious communities, where there was a local pastor that wanted to have Sunday services. What the RCMP did, they blocked the entrance to get into the parking lot, and nobody could actually get into the church where they were going to, several hundred people were going to congregate. So the pastor in the end held his sermon outdoors with the RCMP nearby and some protesters here as well. The one controversy that we're seeing here, and I'll be interested to see if it gets resolved this week, is the drive-in churches where you stay in your car, you tune into a radio, limited radio station on the FM band, you stay in your cars and you watch on the big screen. That has been deemed a no-go under our healthcare orders, and that's being challenged, and we'll see if they walk that back. But to answer your question, people like the fact that we're doing our best to try to get those numbers down. But Joel, it's tough getting those numbers down. The community spread is still out there. We're waiting, and I can kick up the absolute latest numbers here. We have 14 additional deaths here to report. The youngest a female in their 40s. We have a lot of personal care home deaths, 277 new cases, and provincially our test positivity rate is 13.2%. Anything above 3 puts any of those restrictions in place, and we're at 13.2%.
See, you're where we were, and you're where in many cases we still are. In North Dakota, what you just described as that community responsibility, that understanding and appreciation that government had to do it, it's just the opposite. We don't like it. And if you walk into certain places, Richard, and you're wearing a mask, you get a look like you would not believe. It's just the opposite that way. But when the governor put the mandate on, some of that changed. I mean, some of that changed. You're seeing people now say, look, this is the rule. I've got to do it. I saw a guy back home that he's an old grease monkey is what he is. I mean, he has got 3 Trump flags on his flagpole. I mean, he's that guy. Okay, and so he just thinks this is all ridiculous. I saw him go into a gas station recently with a mask on. It just about freaked me out, but he had a mask on. And so what Governor Burgum did do was he empowered those of us who felt it was important to be able to do, as you said, and point it out. And be able to say, look, these are the rules now. You got to adhere to the rules. I'm not sure anybody would have done it to him anyway. He's about 6'5" and 270, but I'm just saying that it got people's attention.
Well, and it's at a point now, I think, compared to 6 months ago, we all know somebody who has been affected either personally or has a relative or has a friend who has either ended up in the hospital or who has died. And I think as that sets in, that it's no longer the other person or somebody in another community that is going through this, but we can all relate to it, that's when the masks come out and people start paying attention to this.
I just lost another friend, just last week. Lost another friend, and that makes 2 very close personal friends and 4 people that I knew quite well that have died of COVID. I've had COVID. And you know, I try to tell people on air all the time that don't use me and what happened to me as the example. Just because I lost taste and I lost smell and I was back to work once the quarantine is off, I still got a hack. You know, I still have that. And the doctors tell me that's going to take a little bit yet. So it's serious. It's not the flu. When you talk to people like you do every day, what's the impression? I mean, what's the impression, not just of North Dakota, of the United States and Donald Trump and the leadership that he has provided to his nation when it comes to COVID?
First of all, they're thankful that Joe Biden has won the election. Unfortunately, you know, on 2 levels. On the one level, on the serious level, we have seen a lot of Canadians say, what has Donald Trump done, not just domestically, but internationally? They look at the United States, and I still look at the United States as this beacon of what is right in the world and of democracy. And the fact that the United States presence worldwide is so very important, especially the threats that we see now with China and Russia and other actors. That one impression of the United States. The other one was just, you know, so many lives lost. Yeah. And there's a certain amount of empathy towards the United States. And now it seems our perspective is United States is getting their act together. Fauci can speak freely now. We like what's going on. Vaccines around the corner. We're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah. I can tell you this. My nephew is building a new hunting shack, and he misses Canada. The lumber has gone through the roof here. The trade that we do. What's that?
We miss you guys too. We want you to get back. Look forward to popping a Budweiser or a Canadian brew with you when you come back this way.
That's the deal. Thank you, Richard. Thanks for coming on.
You bet.
That just sounded good. That just sounded really good to me. I'm going to take him up on that when I head up to Winnipeg, which, quite frankly, is one of my favorite cities in the world. Gabriel Sterling. Who's Gabriel Sterling? A man with a lot of guts. He stood on the steps of the Capitol in Georgia, and he just told them what was in his heart. He basically called out all those individuals that are sitting there and invoking violence on election officials in Georgia. Took guts to do it. He's a Republican, and he called out the Republicans. And I have to tell you, I was pretty impressed. When we come back, we're going to talk about him, and we're going to share with you the sound and the video of what he did.
Bismarck Central, 4800.
4800, go ahead.
Requesting social services on-call team.
Stand by. 4800 social services requesting additional information.
You can advise social services that we have an 18-month-old female who was in a residence with a mother, now being transported to medical care for overdose.
Trusting your digital life to faceless tech giants can be risky. Will they keep your family and business information truly safe from prying eyes? If you subscribe to local Beck Lightband internet service, you already have Beck Cloud Backup. Beck Cloud Backup is the safest, most private cloud storage for all your family memories, schoolwork, and business documents. Call 701-475-2361 to start using your free space on Beck Cloud Backup today.
You just
might find the home of your dreams this weekend by watching the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes Sundays at 6 p.m. and Wednesdays at 7 on Beck, featuring properties from Bismarck, Mandan, Minot, and surrounding areas. The Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes presents desirable properties that are for sale, lets you meet your Alliance realtors, and provides critical insights into local happenings from community and business leaders. Join us this Sunday evening at 6 or Wednesday at 7 for the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes on Beck.
Today's households have more digital devices than ever before. More links to family, business, education, and entertainment. Beck Communications spent over 10 years building North Dakota's fastest fiber optic internet service. Beck Lightband Internet, outpacing speeds in large cities nationwide. Lightband Internet handles all your digital needs without throttling your connection to the world. Beck Communications, valuable digital connections in rural North Dakota.
Howdy folks, it's the County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bussin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at our salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the county line.
So when you're in my line of work, you're always consuming news, right? I get up in the morning and I check, the print papers. I check, what's going on TV. I've already got the radio on, so I'm listening to our morning show. And every place that I can get news, I try to get it. So I don't walk into, whether it's TV here or whether it's radio or both of my jobs in media, I don't like to walk in and be surprised or have somebody call in and say, how in the world can you do that job without knowing this? So this morning I'm watching and I'm seeing this video of a man named Gabriel Sterling. Now, who's Gabriel Sterling? He works for the Secretary of State in the great state of Georgia. That's who he is. He is in the eye of the hurricane. This is a man whose life has been threatened. This is a man who, during the recount in Georgia, has been, put in a position where no one would want to be. And he had it. He had it. And clearly what's pushed him over the top, and you're about to see it, you're about to hear it, clearly what has pushed him over the top was the fact that they went so far that they involved a 20-year-old young man in this who just wanted a job. Take a look at this.
Good afternoon. My name is Gabriel Sterling. I'm the Voting System Implementation Manager for the state of Georgia. And just to give you all a heads up, this is going to be sort of a two-part press conference today. At the beginning of this, I'm going to do my best to keep it together because it has all gone too far. All of it. Joe DeGenova today asked for Chris Krebs, a patriot who ran CISA, to be shot. A 20-something tech in Gwinnett County today has death threats and a noose put out saying he should be hung for treason because he was transferring a report on batches from an EMS to a county computer so he could read it. It has to stop. Mr. President, you have not condemned these actions or this language. Senators, you have not condemned this language or these actions. This has to stop. We need you to step up, and if you're going to take a position of leadership, show some. My boss, Secretary Raffensperger, his address is out there. They have people doing caravans in front of their house. They've had people come onto their property. Tricia, his wife of 40 years, is getting sexualized threats through her cell phone. It has to stop. This is elections. This is the backbone of democracy, and all of you who have not said a damn word are complicit in this. It's too much. Yes, fight for every legal vote. Go through your due process. We encourage you, use your First Amendment. That's fine. Death threats, physical threats, intimidation. It's too much. It's not right. They've lost the moral high ground to claim that it is. I don't have all the best words to do this because I'm angry. And the straw that broke the camel's back today is, again, this 20-year-old contractor for a voting system company just trying to do his job. Just there. In fact, I talked to Dominion today and I said he's one of the better ones they got. His family's getting harassed now. There's a noose out there with his name on it. It's not right. I've got police protection outside my house. Fine. You know, I took a higher profile job. I get it. Secretary ran for office. His wife knew that too. This kid took a job. He just took a job. And it's just wrong. I can't begin to explain the level of anger I have right now over this. And every American, every Georgian, Republican and Democrat alike, should have that same level of anger. Mr. President, it looks like you likely lost the state of Georgia. We're investigating. There's always a possibility. I get it. And you have the rights to go through the courts. What you don't have the ability to do, and you need to step up and say this, is stop inspiring people to commit potential acts of violence. Someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get shot. Someone's going to get killed. And it's not right. It's not right. And y'all, I don't have anything scripted. This is, like I said, I'm going to do my best to keep it together. All of this is wrong. The Geneva who said for Chris Krebs to get shot is a former U.S. attorney. He knows better. The people around the president know better. Mr. President, as the Secretary said yesterday, people aren't giving you the best advice on what's actually going on the ground. It's time to look forward. If you want to run for re-election in 4 years, fine, do it. But everything we're seeing right now, there's not a path. Be the bigger man here and step in, tell your supporters, don't be violent, don't intimidate. All that's wrong. It's un-American.
That's from the heart, ladies and gentlemen. You can't fake that. You can't act that. You can't pretend that. That was from the heart. This is a man who watched a 20-year-old young man, boy, many of us would say, getting beat up when it comes to how he's being treated. A noose with his name on it. You know, Sterling said this. He said, all he did was take a job. He took a job. How many people do you know that are 20 years old that you're sitting there saying, I wish they'd just take a job? You know, I wish they'd realize this is a country where you're supposed to get up in the morning and go to work. He did that. He did that. And here we sit to have the Secretary of State's wife threatened sexually. Keep that in mind. Now, Gabriel Sterling is a Republican. He's voted Republican all his voting life. He voted for Donald Trump. He's been there for the Republican Party. He's working for the Secretary of State as one of his high appointments. And the reason is because the Secretary of State is a Republican. So how did we get to here? How did we get to here? He said it. He said how we got to here. We got to here because we don't have leadership. We have nothing but a lack of leadership. And in that chasm, somebody steps up and grabs it and uses it for their own personal greed and their own personal good. And that starts at the top. That starts at the top. For Donald Trump to ignore this process in Georgia, all he has to do is step up and say, knock it off. Don't do it. Do not do it. Remember when John McCain had that public forum and a woman stepped up to say that Barack Obama wasn't from this country? He was using that, she was using that whole birther argument that Donald Trump started. And John McCain says, no, don't do that. I know him. He's a good person. His policies are different than mine. I hope you vote for me, kind of a speech back at her. Where's that? I mean, where is that? What happened in this country that we got to a point where a man like Sterling had to step up and make that argument for that 20-year-old young man? How did we get there? You can do something about it. You can call your United States senators. You can call them. Probably won't take the call, but leave a message. Call Governor Burgum. Call John Hogan. Call Kevin Kramer. Call Kelly Armstrong and say, put word out there that you don't stand for this. Issue a statement that you don't stand for this. And how these people are being treated is absolutely ridiculous. When we come back, there's some kids with their head in a place it shouldn't have been at NDSU with a Snapchat group. We're going to talk about it right after this.
He once won a spelling bee in an ancient language that he did not speak. He is the only man to ever earn extra credit on an IQ exam. His academic degrees are considered legitimate spending currency in 22 nations, 2 principalities, and at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States and Western Canada.
I do not always engage with education programming, but when I do, it is the Dr. Duke Show.
Stay educated with the Dr. Duke Show, weekdays at 4 p.m. on Beck News.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at AccordSleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink for trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
My name is Rich Shook, and I lost my best friend in a grain bin accident. Some of the emotional scars that when these incidences happen just resonates throughout the community like dropping a rock in a pond. I guess I'll never forget. At least the last moments we shared. That's why I think this is so important to get out there to people, is people think that it can't happen to you, and it can. The time it would take you to just kiss a loved one, and your life is over. I believe it's unacceptable.
This message provided by North Dakota Farmers Union.
It's always good going down the road with you. I want to talk about a learning moment. Well, let's say a teaching moment, and then we'll see whether or not there's a learning moment behind that. There's some young men, and again, I'm going to stress men because they're old enough to know right from wrong, that are attending NDSU. Now think of that word that your parents and everybody has told you not to use when describing black people. Got the word in your head? I do, and so do you. And so they use that word in their Snapchat group to describe themselves. And it was, that word are us. In fact, you know, if you want to see exactly what the group looked like, here's a good example of it. So these are individuals that in their comments in regards to the Snapchat group said, we're not racist, we just prefer white people. We just prefer to be around white people. But they're not racist, right? Okay, so we're talking about a group of individuals that when they show you who they are, I think it's important to believe them. And they showed us who they are. Now, what do you do with that? What do you do with that information? If you're President Dean Bershani and you know you've got these individuals attending your institution and they have showed you who they are, what do you do with that? It's a teaching moment. That's why you got into education in the first place. It's a teaching moment. That's what I would do. I'd bring them in. I'd say, what are you thinking? Is this really who you are? Is this who you want to be defined as in your adult life? What were you thinking? And then I would suggest to them all the different options as the president of NDSU that he would have available to him to deal with this. What I do know is that the president of NDSU cannot run and hide on this. He can't staff it out. He can't sit there and say, hey, you know, here's my media relations person, talk to them. The president of NDSU has to use this as an opportunity to teach, to say, we at NDSU don't respect this, we don't stand for this, and you know what? I'm going to make sure I do everything I can to make sure it doesn't happen again. You can't just love black people on your campus when they're playing football or basketball. You can't act as though they're not human beings, because they are. They're our neighbors, they're our friends, they're our fellow citizens, they are people that we love and people that we cherish. And so here we sit, right? We're having this age-old argument, and these guys are on Snapchat just loving it. They're digging it. They think they're cool for saying it, but they got caught. They got caught. We're about to find out what NDSU does. And if they do nothing, we're about to catch them. It's always good riding with you, folks. Until next time, we'll see you down the road.